position of Fermi High School Assistant Principal to candidate A.
Motion was made by Mr. Grady, seconded by Ms. Ungary. Do I have any comments?
Did we just have two candidate A's?
This is another position, another
Okay.
candidate. Any discussion? Sensing none, may I have roll call, please?
Mrs. Thurston? Mr. Janitis?
Yes.
Mr. Peabody?
Yes.
Mrs. Ungary?
Yes.
Mr. Walwer? Mr. Grady?
Yes.
Mrs. LeBlanc?
Yes.
Mr. Neville?
Yes.
Chairman Serard?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the budget as presented by the superintendent as amended and authorize the superintendent to call back all non-renewed teachers.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes. Can I mention CCC?
Wait one.
Okay.
Mr. Janice, could you hold your comments for a moment, please? All right. So that everyone understands, we're going to be doing what this superintendent's original budget was, but we're also adding the following reductions. We're currently not filling 6 vacancies created by retirements versus the layoff of 23 active employees. So it'll be 4 full-time teaching positions and 2 full-time paraprofessionals. We will be using the utilization of 1 librarian split between our 2 high schools. A reduction of 3 seats in the Suffield VOAG program from 7 new ones, down to 7 from 10. The consolidation of the business and FACS department chairs, and expanding world language department chair for grades 6 to 12. We will be adding the addition of freshman sports and moving up the consolidation of Fermi and Enfield High School athletic programs to next year versus the fall of 2016, so that everyone understands what exactly that all means. After negotiations with the town and some hard work by our staff in renegotiating some of our contracts with IT, we've come up with an additional $200,707 in savings. We're reducing our legal budget for next year by $20,000. Our CFO salary is going to be is going to be reduced to by $40,000 during the interim status while we still have temps working for us. The magnet school tuition, which is what you're talking about with Suffield VOAG, will save us $25,200. The administrative vacancy replacements, we are actually promoting from within our school department to allow teachers to fill in vice principals positions, which will allow us, if everyone agrees, to promote from within with our own teachers' bodies and have our teachers evaluated by people who used to be teachers in the district for a savings of $96,798 as that all shakes out. By allowing 3 full-time retirements that came in after the budget not to be filled, we're talking business, world English, and world language, we will be saving $271,909. Although this has no impact on major course load, it may have an impact on elective course loads, but our principals have assured us that the impact will be minor. We will be consolidating ahead of time the librarians between the 2 high schools. We will be reducing from being also part of the retirement. We will not be replacing a librarian, and we will have only 1 full-time librarian for both high schools. That will be a savings of $53,009, and we'll also have a media consolidation for our libraries. That's also on that line item. We will be consolidating some of our department chairs, also in anticipation of the consolidation. That will save us $1,222. The combined sports allocation from combining the 2 high schools and expanding to our sports program to include freshman sports will save us $286,891. 2 full-time paraprofessionals being removed or not replaced will be $40,500. We will also be dropping our membership to the Connecticut Association of Board of Education, which is CABE. That will save us approximately $20,000. We will also be cutting our Board of Ed travel expense, which is just is what it is, and we will lead by example, by $5,200. All of these cuts should put us well within the town council's allocated budget amount. That is where we're doing with the money so that we can keep as many bodies in the building as we can. Any further comments?
No, I think let's go back to me now.
Mr. Giannitis.
You want to continue what he's saying, or what?
Mr. Giannitis.
Okay, three things that I'm having a difficulty with. One is the consolidation of the sports, and we're not going to know until apparently Friday whether or not we're going to have that approximate $300,000 savings. So I'd hate to pass a budget now, knowing that come Friday, we may say, oh, wow, we just got to come back and cut $300,000 more someplace. I feel uncomfortable doing that. I still feel, hello? I still feel very uncomfortable that in all the cuts that we've made, since the advent of the new administration here at central office, we have increased the salaries down there at approximately $400,000, and I still think there is room there where some cuts should be made. If the rest of the system is going to be made to suffer a little bit, I think they ought to be up there too. I don't see it being quite that fair. As far as not replacing the world language teacher at the middle school, I think you have a full-time teacher, that's 5 classes, and to say that's not going to be a burden, it's definitely going to be a burden. If anything, I'd be going the other way and making 6th grade, have it offering to them Spanish in an exploratory manner, not a full-fledged course, but I think Spanish is extremely important, and I don't like that cut in the world language teacher. So for those reasons, I'm not going to vote for this budget.
Mr. Peabody.
Thank you. First of all, Peter, as a point of correction, the world language teacher was at the high school, and the high school principals assured us that they can absorb the extra classes.
That's the retirement of Moira Dinan.
Well, that's it.
We're going to move the person from the high school to fill the middle school.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't hear that downstairs.
Just so it's on, I apologize. The reduction in world language is at the high school, but as Mr. Giannitis correctly pointed out, the retirement is at the middle school. So we'll be transferring one staff person from the high school world language department to the middle school. I'm sorry for the confusion.
Okay, getting back to what I was going to say is, yeah, we are taking a bit of a risk, but not much, for the CIAC hearing on Friday, and I don't have an issue with putting the budget forward because there are other things that we can do, and there are other things in flight as a Plan B that Dr. Schumann and the board is working on together just in case. The whole goal here was actually laid out by Mr. Giannitis in saying we didn't want to do any harm at all, or at least little harm to the classroom levels, especially at the elementary level, and we accomplished that with this budget. The other thing I want to point out is no smoke and mirrors here. We've gone through line by line, detail by detail as best we can, and we'll be increasing the granularity for reporting for the next budget season. That way there, people will see exactly what we're doing, and we'll be transparent, and we're looking forward to that. So there's no smoke and mirrors, guys. There's no money tree, has been indicated on Facebook and other places. It's all real budget stuff that we're doing. So this is what we do. We do budget analytics, and we do have a fiduciary responsibility to our students, the teachers, their parents, and residents of the town that do not have children in the school system, and that's exactly what we're doing. So I have nothing else to add, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for your hard work.
Ms. LeBlanc.
Okay, I'm going to support this budget as presented by Dr. Schumann. I want to thank Dr. Schumann for thinking outside of the box and coming up with these list of reductions, because I really only wanted to support reductions that affected the least amount of students. But one thing I'd like to say is, there was some complacency saying that full-day kindergarten wasn't going to get cut. Everything was considered. We were underfunded. This year, we're able to possibly get our sports consolidated and save $312,000, which we were told we weren't going to originally be able to do. But with the hard work and diligence, Dr. Schumann has been able to kind of push this forward based on gym space and field space and the fact that the construction has started. But a message for next year, we're not going to have that. That's going to be consolidated. And full day will be considered unless we can start getting people out there to support our budget when we present it, so people understand that they're being watched, that there are people that support the education budget. We don't want to see full day get cut. We don't want to see any more cuts at the high school. We want to maintain status quo. So what we're able to do with this budget, I'm comfortable with. I don't like having to have to cut, but this is what I'm willing to do. And once again, our budget that was submitted was within town charter, and amendments can be made. And I'm sure they will be again because it's an election year.
Mr. Neville?
As I said during the board member comments, our job was to try to minimize the hurt. There's still some hurt in here, and there's still some struggle that we have to go through. But I think I applaud the administration for coming through with this response. I think there's some issues too that will get explained as we go along. That besides the fact that this is a transition we have to go to in 2 years anyway. It's a difficult transition whenever you merge two schools, and so the sooner we get some experience with that, the better. Secondly, because of the building project, there will be periods of time where we won't have access to certain parts of the physical plant at Enfield High School, and we would have to move those teams anyway, because the locker room is going to be closed for a year, at least in one side, and 2/3 of a year, or 3/4 of a year with the boys' team. There'll be times when they won't be able to use the gym or the outside facilities because of the storage of equipment and supplies and so on down there. So I think, although we would love to have the luxury to plan this over a greater period of time, I think it's a reasonable way to go. I think it makes sense to look at this and try to bring our two groups together here, and at the same time, we avoid some other cuts that we would have to make. So I'm comfortable with this, and I can support it.
Mr. Peabody?
I hate to call anybody out, but I'm going to. I don't recall a single meeting where full-day kindergarten was on the table. And we cannot be going with emotional tactics out to the public anymore. It just wasn't there. It was never discussed. We discussed class sizes, but never full-day kindergarten.
Ms. LeVon?
Everything was considered, as stated by our chair several times. Everything was considered. Yes, it was.
Show me
And
the
I
minutes.
stand by
Show
that.
me the minutes.
I will show you something, but I also am going to say we even spoke to Chris and Dr. Schumann about it. I didn't take a spreadsheet and go ahead on my own. I consulted who we consult.
The board, as a group, never in consensus, talked about that.
The board as a group also didn't work on a spreadsheet and consulted town council members that $180,000 would be sufficient funding.
You had the opportunity to join us. You didn't.
I
Let's stop
understand
it right
that.
now.
I get that, but don't tell, full day was
All
considered.
right. Mr. Grady?
Well, as I said before, my comments before, we had no choice but to support this budget. And Dr. Schumann, you did do a good job in getting these numbers to where they are, and I guess at a minimal impact to the district. I still disagree with that, but why are we doing this? I mean, why are we keep on hitting this school budget all the time? I don't see any other budgets in this town that are getting whacked as much as the educational budgets in this town. And Mr. Peabody, you're going back and forth about the full-day kindergarten. You're saying that it was never on a thing. How about the accusations that were brought from other people, from voters to people on the councils on both sides, accusing this board or central office of being mismanagers of the money, which is baloney, okay? I'm tired of the slinging. This shouldn't be a political stance on this board. We're here for the children. We're not here about what political views that Republicans and Democrats have. This is supposed to be for the best of these children. These kids are going on to college and trying to better their life and find a good job. We're taking stuff away year by year, except for last year because we added something great to our system. And I was hoping that we're going to do it again this year. But we're not. We're looking at finding $1 million, and Dr. Schumann did a great job in finding that $1 million and taking things away again. I mean, we're supposed to be looking out for these kids. We're supposed to be finding stuff to add on. Instead of taking elective ways and not retire, replacing good teachers that are retiring because of whatever reason they're going to retire. Some of it's because of the Common Core. I don't know. Okay? But it's baloney that we're getting accused of mismanagement. We get audited every year. We pass that audit. There is nothing wrong that we're doing on this board. There's nothing wrong that anybody's doing in that central office. Let's cut the baloney and let's look at what these kids need for a better education in this town. Instead of taking away as much as they took away from us this year, how about adding on and adding some programs so these kids have an idea of what they want to do in their lifetime? We've had kids today that were in National Honor Society that are going out to college not knowing what they're going to do yet. They should have an idea what they're going to do. We don't offer anything for them to try out and maybe go on to college and better their way of life, just like cooking or something like that, or automotive, your vocational part, we should be adding on instead of taking away. It's baloney.
Mr. Janitis.
I'm gonna really try to stay calm. Vinny, 62% of our budget is in this town is towards school. Where do you want to stop? 64, 68? You're clapping? 70%? Where? We do provide a good education for our kids. We do.
We get by, Peter.
We provide a damn good education for what we can afford in this town. And if you don't accept that, I'm sorry.
Never said we didn't have a good education.
Please let me finish, because I can't let, even though you helped me last week, Tina, I can't let it go. You want to take a shot at our party, the Republican Party, saying there's an election next year, fine. But there's also an election this November. Get some state reps that are supporting education and getting rid of some of these damn mandates and other things that we're spending tons of money on. Get rid of the governor, for cripe's sakes. We can go vote for a different town council next year if you want. But that's not where the main thrust of the problem is. You gotta know what's coming out of Hartford. In 20 years, we're not even gonna have local boards of education. This whole thing is spinning out of control. And I don't mean to yell at you two or take shots. It's just, I'm frustrated as hell. And I wish I could say that comment from Network.
Ms. LeBlanc.
Peter, to your point about the state representatives, I think that us going forward, almost we need to get them here at least every other month or every 2 months, because I agree with that, because we're constantly fighting the battles with the mandates, with the magnet schools, with the teacher evaluations. I mean, the list is growing, and I agree with you on that point. I do. I'm at a point where I think we're all frustrated. I think we're tired. I think this budget season has just gone on a lot longer than any of us wanted it to, and it's not really going to end just yet because we have the conference call on Friday. The thing of it is, I felt like it was my turn to finally say what I wanted to say, because I've sat and listened. And I think we've gotten our frustrations out. I think we need to move forward. We're going to do the best that we can with what we have to work with. We have great teachers that are going to make the best of the best situations. I think we came up with something creative, or Dr. Schuman did, and we're looking to support it.
And just so I may, hopefully both of us just glide out of this thing, I don't want to listen to our representatives come here and tell us they can do this, they can do that. I don't want mumbo jumbo coming from them. I want to see them doing something in Hartford, standing up for Enfield. Don't get lost in this shuffle, well, I'm new, or this is my second term, or something like this. I have to play by the rules and stuff like that. I'm tired of these rules down there.
Well, I think,
speak up and
I think whether we're a Democrat or Republican,
I don't
we all
care
have,
what they are, to be honest
no,
with you.
I'm saying about us. We all have the same vices with what we're dealing with in our budget with the state mandates. So there's no secret there.
Mr. Peabody.
Yeah, one thing I do want to mention is that Mrs. LeBlanc has suggested that in the conversation we had, is we continue to work on the budget. Get it set up so next year we have details. We have what we need. And the Finance Committee, which Tina's the chair of, we'll work through that offline. And we'll report that to the board. And we should get through some of the heartaches we have. I'm just not one to sit there and rally troops behind things other than our information. And if I stirred you up, I apologize. That wasn't my intent. I think we're just kind of struggling here a little bit. And we work well together. We've gotten through a lot of garbage together, meaning detail. And I think we can present a better budget next year. We have to start thinking multiple years in advance. We just can't think of this year and next year. So we just got to forge it and move forward.
Mr. Neville?
I think, I think we're all frustrated right now. And I don't think going down that path helps any of us. I think we've struggled to get to this thing, and I think there's general agreement on it, and let's make the best of it. But I think this budget process isn't just with us. This budget process is with the public. And having sat through this and sat through the budget hearing, not one single person came out and spoke in favor of the education budget. And I think you can look at that several ways. You can say that you're doing a good job and it's a fair budget, or you think it should be cut, or whatever. But I guess I was frustrated at that, if for us to do anything to support what we're all here for, support the kids, okay, and I think you want to do that too, you need to talk to us, you need to get involved, you need to stand up and say yes or no, you need to stand up and ask questions so that we can get to a fair budget. But it takes all of us, not just the 9 of us, it takes all of us, the entire community, because that's the only way we can make it a quality school system. We need your help. We can't hear your silence.
Mr. Walwer, do you have any comments?
Well, I do want to thank Superintendent Schuman, Deputy Superintendent Trezek, and all members of the board for their patience, diligence, intensity, and consistency in arriving to where we are tonight. I thank my colleagues. You've all done an exemplary job under extreme pressure, and I thank you all.
All right. I don't like to punctuate too often, but I think it's time in this case. The budget cycle has always been an ongoing process. I agree with both sides of the fence here on many, many levels. If you want to know how we maintained all-day kindergarten and kept it off the scrap heap, we had 3 retirements after the budget was presented. We are really, really, really advancing the consolidation of the high school sports well before we were planning to. This is not going to be an easy transition as we had hoped. This is going to be an immediate transition, and it may not be the way that people like it. But it keeps kindergarten in place. Working with the town and working with our administrators, we managed to find another $200,000 because the budget doesn't stop. It keeps going. And that's what's misunderstood. It never stops. On both sides of the political fence here, it was inappropriate for both sides of the political fence to accuse us of malfeasance. And that was a bipartisan attack. So remind that and remember that we are trying as a board, and I think we've done very well as a board, to function as a board of Enfield. So, any other comments?
Yeah, since you brought the public into it, people sitting out there, you have to realize that between salaries and benefits, employees, the magnet schools, I mean, every year, our budget goes up and we haven't even done anything yet. Nothing. And then to say, no, I don't want to start another fight. But it just keeps going up. I mean, we're looking at maybe 62% this year. I bet you next year, before we even start to discuss the process, it's going to be maybe 64%. So it's a nasty cycle that we're caught in right now. And once again, I'm just going to hit you between the eyes to think the only solution down the road, the next big solution, is class sizes and cutting bodies, cutting teachers. I don't know where else you're going to go after that. You know, I mean, you want full-day kindergarten? We got it. Now, to keep it, that's going to be the trick. You want to consolidate the sports and do all that stuff? That's good. But we're borrowing ahead now. We're stealing from Peter to pay Paul. Well, I'm Peter, so.
Paul's happy.
But, I mean, we're going to, next year's going to be worse, and then when the next new board comes in, they're going to be sitting here scratching their head, and it's the same tensions are going to rise and everything like that again. Facebook's going to go crazy. It's an endless cycle, but the bottom thing is you can always cut teachers and you can always increase class sizes. And, man, I'm telling you, as long as I'm sitting up here, I'll fight tooth and nail to stop that one. But it's coming. It's coming down the road. So.
Any further conversation? Mr. Peabody.
It'll be brief. I echo what Peter's saying. It is the next thing to cut, but there's another thing. As I've been saying since I got on the board, I'm just amazed. We have to pay $1.3 million to crack, right off the top. If we didn't have that this year, we would not be meeting right now and having this lengthy of a discussion. So the thing to take away here really is you got to call our representatives in and get somebody to write some legislation to take the pressure off of the cities and towns for crack. It's absolutely obscene. So we got to call Mr. Alexander, Mr. Kiner, and Mr. Kissel here to get them in to explain to us why they will not write legislation to that effect.
Sensing no more comments, Kathy, may I have roll call, please?
Mrs. Thurston? Mr. Janitis?
No.
Mr. Peabody?
Yes?
Mrs. Ungary?
Yes.
Mr. Walrer? Mr. Grady?
Yes.
Mrs. LeBlanc?
Yes.
Mr. Neville?
Yes.
Chairman Serrard?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn made by Mr. Grady, seconded by Ms. Thurston. All in favor by show of hands. This meeting is now adjourned. Thank you very much.